My name is Scott, and I am an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is June 10th of 2019. Well, welcome everyone to today's Threads of Recovery workshop. I've stated I'm an alcoholic. Do we have any other alcoholics in the room? You can wave, smile, and jump up and down. Wow, the whole screen full. This is a fantastic. It's a fantastic day, but you know what? I'm not sure what day it is. And I was wondering if anybody could help me because I want to make sure I'm sharing on the right day.
Hi, Scott. It's Debbie G. I just wanted to help you out here. Today is Marvelous Monday, everyone. Have a great meeting. Happy birthday, Satish.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay. Now I know what day it is. Okay. Thank you. And we can proceed. Okay. According to God's presence, acknowledging God's presence for the moment of silence. And so Satish is going to follow that with the serenity of prayer in French.
St. Francis.
St. Francis.
St. Francis. Okay. So I am Satish. I am an alcoholic. I am from Mauritius. And today I would like to say the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi in French because I am celebrating 37 years of sobriety. And this prayer reminds me whether I am reaching what I wanted to reach. Where so far have I reached? So the prayer says, Seigneur, faites de moi l'instrument de votre paix, que là où il y a de la haine, je puisse apporter l'amour, que là où il y a le mal, je puisse apporter l'esprit de pardon, que là où règne la discorde, je puisse apporter l'harmonie, que là où il y a l'erreur, je puisse apporter la vérité, que là où il y a le doute, je puisse apporter la foi, que là où il y a le désespoir, je puisse apporter l'espoir, que là où il y a la tristesse, je puisse apporter la joie. Seigneur, accordez-moi de chercher à réconforter plutôt qu'à être réconforté, de comprendre plutôt que d'être compris, d'aimer plutôt que d'être aimé. Car c'est dans l'oubli de soi que l'on trouve, c'est en pardonnant que l'on est pardonné, c'est en mourant que l'on s'éveille à la vie éternelle. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was wonderful. Okay. 1058 Threads of Recovery continues to offer virtual workshops 3 days a week. To be included in our weekly email, send your request to threads1058@gmail.com. This will keep you up to date on our workshops. Our group follows the 12 traditions. We stick to our singleness of purpose. We ask that everyone refrain from profanity when sharing and any activity that may distract the meeting. Please turn on your camera if possible. We'd love to see your smiling face. The seventh tradition states every A group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. The contributions help to cover group expenses, but the seventh tradition is more than just simply paying for rent and other group expenses. It is both a privilege and a responsibility of individual groups and members to ensure that our organization at every level remains forever self-supporting and free of outside enterprise and outside influence that might divert us from our sole primary purpose. The monetary amount of each contribution is secondary to the spiritual connection that joins us in with AA groups around in unity with AA groups around the world. Seventh tradition contributions can be made by using Venmo or by mailing it. Details will be in the chat. This is an open meeting. Open meetings are available to anyone interested in Alcoholics Anonymous program of recovery from alcoholism. Non-alcoholics are welcome to attend open meetings as observers. And now it is with my great pleasure to introduce our wonderful workshop leader today, Bill H. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Scott. My name is Bill. I am an alcoholic. I know. Happy birthday, Satish. I know Satish does not suffer from green tie envy. However, I have a suspicion that at least one or two of you maybe didn't even know you had green tie envy until you saw the brand new. I've only owned this tie for an hour. My wife brought this home, and look at it. You might say, well, this is a green tie for St. Patrick's Day, which is coming up. And maybe there's a connection. You know, I heard a long time ago that if it weren't for alcohol, the Irish would have ruled the world. And some of the Irish friends I have, I can see that. But I'm not Irish. But the real reason for the green tie is step 11. We are in a 12-step study called Finding God as We Understand God, the WHO, WHO, the WHO, God in the 12 steps. And my wife suggested to me that since the verb in step 11 is seek, maybe because the Irish were always seeking hope with those four-leaf clovers and the Blarney Stone and all this. Well, we're seeking hope. We're not seeking hope with a clover. We're not seeking hope. Have you ever been to try to kiss that Blarney Stone? You have to lean over and reach out, and you damn near died trying to kiss that thing if you've ever been there. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just reporting on the facts of the physical situation there. But what are we seeking? Well, step 11 on page 59 says we're seeking to improve our conscious contact with God. And we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to talk about the who, God as we understand him, and trying not to confuse the who with the how. Anyway, I'm Bill. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March 18, not quite there yet, March 18, 1981. And I will tell you what I was not doing 45 years ago tonight. 45 years ago, on the Monday before St. Patrick's Day, I did not go to my home group. I'd been in AA for 3 months, but I did not go to my home group on Monday night because I had been drinking. I did not have a desire to stop drinking. They let me come in anyway. They let me sit in the meeting. I didn't go to the meeting drunk. But let me just put it this way. It's really hard to pick up on what the big book says if you're still trying to drink. I found out even after I quit drinking and started trying to do the big book sober, it's still tough to figure some of this stuff out for a while. Impossible when I was drinking. So I did not go to my home group 45 years ago tonight. And I started my last binge 45 years ago tomorrow. What better way to celebrate St. Patrick's Day than starting your last 24-hour drunk so far? But we'll talk about that another time. I have some really good news. Welcome back. For those of you that have been on threads before, welcome to Threads. If this is your first time, I have some really good news for you. Because of the big book, 12-Step Spiritual Recovery Program of Alcoholics Anonymous, we have a way out. We have a way up and out, a path to follow to recover from alcoholism and to recover from the so-called first sentence in the book, first sentence in the foreword of the first edition. We have a way up and out to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. This way up and out, this path to follow to sobriety, recovery, comfort, and joy is the 12-step recovery program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Robin is our first reader, and Robin's going to kick off our step 11 discussion, Finding God as We Understand God, the who in the 12 steps. You're going to kick that off. Robin, once again, back on Appendix 2. page 568. Page 568 in the fourth edition, all the page numbers I cite for the next hour or so are from the fourth edition. 568, most emphatically.
Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable.
Well, there you have it. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness, indispensable. Can't live without them for our spiritual awakening. How? H-O-W. See, those willingness, honesty, and open-minded on page 68 is often misquoted. Instead of a who, it's quoted as a how. And it doesn't say how, it says who. Willing, honest, open-minded, in that order. Nothing wrong with how. How is the process of the 12 steps which produce our spiritual awakening. What is our spiritual awakening? A personal relationship with who? God, which is the purpose of the 12 steps. The purpose of the 12 steps is to produce and improve conscious contact, personal relationship with the God of our understanding. The presence of who, God, in the 12 steps is the power of the 12 steps. If all I was here for was to not drink, well, that's certainly better than drinking. So not drinking is certainly a step in the right direction. But that's not just what we're here for. We're here to develop this relationship with a power greater than ourselves that can not only help us not drink, help us learn how to live comfortably not drinking, and help us be of service to others not drinking. And we don't seem to be able to do that. We don't seem to be able to work these 12 steps with sufficient depth and seriousness and commitment if we don't have these indispensable willing, honest, and open-minded in each step. It's good to have the how. It's really good to have the path to follow of the 12 steps, but we cannot afford to worship the how. I cannot afford to let the 12 steps or the meetings or my sponsor or the men that I sponsor, I cannot afford to let the big book itself be my higher power. And I've done that over the years and not even know I was doing it. I've let the how become the higher power and completely missed the who in the process. So we do not want to let the how become the substitute for the who as our higher power. Now, the who of our spiritual awakening, we've reviewed this before. I'm going to cover this pretty quickly today because I really want to get into step 11 because it says seek. And I feel like doing some seeking today. Don't you feel? I mean, I got the seeker tie. From this day forward, this will be known as the seeker. Oh, look, he's wearing his seeker tie. Not secret, Al. Listen carefully. Seeker. If Al's with me, I can't go wrong. So, back on page XXVII, how many I's are there? 2. XXVI, those I's are hard, I've had trouble with I's for a long time. Me. Page XXVII, the power, capital P in the big book. The power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. Ooh, that was a close one. Page 11. God. This is Bill reflecting on his newly sober former drinking buddy, Ebby. Sitting there on page 11, he says, God had done for him what he could not do for himself. Page 24. This sort of thinking. See, we're not drinking, but we're still thinking. This sort of thinking, alcoholic tendencies, places beyond human aid. Page 25, very top of the page, there is a solution in italics. Read through the whole business of alcoholism one more time. Get to the very bottom of page 25. What is the solution? Accept spiritual help. Guess what? For me to accept it, I need to seek it. I can't just sit here expect it to be dumped on my lap like an Amazon delivery that I didn't even call for. No, that was not an ad for Amazon. They are not my sponsor. They are not paying for this program. Page 43, moving right along. No, watch this carefully. No effective mental defense. See, I think I have a mental defense. That's part of my alcoholic thinking. Okay, I know better. I drank for 21 years, suffered all the consequences, liked the effect of the first 3 drinks, kept chasing the effect, trying to avoid the consequences, thought I could. In fact, I said I quit anytime I want to. I just don't want to. And I've been to jail. I've been to prison. I've been through 2 divorces. Thank God, Tina and I, God willing, will be married 43 years come September. God is good. But I still have no effective mental defense against the first drink or many other things that I think are a good idea. It says there on page 43, his defense must come from a higher power. And then page 45. Here's the real purpose of the book. They tell us right on page 45. Lack of power. That was our dilemma. We're going to find out in a little while liquor was but a symptom. Liquor was but a symptom. Now, you get shot by a bullet, tears off the upper part of your left arm, got an open wound, you're bleeding. Somebody comes up and says, "You're bleeding." Yes, I am. The bleeding is a symptom. Now, we need to treat the symptom. We need to stop the bleeding, otherwise I'll bleed to death. But treating the bleeding does not make me bulletproof. So alcohol would be a symptom. Just because I stopped drinking, I haven't cured anything. Lack of power. That was our dilemma. It says on page 45, right in the middle of the page, book's main object is enable you. This is good enabling. This is to enable you to find a power, capital P, greater than yourself. Yes, there is a power greater than me. It's been my experience, Jen, in Idaho, there's even a power greater than you. It's easy for me to say that there's a power greater than you. It's a little tougher to say, there's a power greater than me. Poor me. I still want to be in charge. No. It said not only find a power greater than yourself, find a power greater than yourself that will solve your problem. And I recommend that you see page 62 to get the black and white definition of your problems called selfish self-centeredness. In the middle of page 62, it's self will run riot, though the alcoholic usually doesn't think so. It's the usually doesn't think so that gets us. I was in prison in 67, diagnosed as an alcoholic. That didn't stop me from drinking. I'll work harder to not get caught and control. I'm not going to control my drinking. I'll do a better job of controlling the people I drink with and the circumstances, the situations, the locations where I drink. You know, if you put your mind to it, you can find ways every day to get as drunk as you want and not get caught. You wonder how I know that, because I damn well did it for 14 years. And on page 57, here's our hope. Even so, page 57, we're way into the book by now. We're getting ready to jump into chapter 5, how it worked. We're getting ready to start actually working the steps, not just the information on 1 and 2. He says, even so. In other words, with all the information we've given you, with the powerlessness and the physical allergy and the overwhelming craving and the mental obsession and the delusion that it's not me, it's them, on and on and on and on. He says, even so, setting this monumental problem of alcoholism aside, has God restored us? God has restored us to our right minds. That's why step two says there's a hope, restoration to sanity. What's the first step in sanity? Don't take the first trick. Arthur tells us every time he logs on with his little label, it's the first one. I haven't had a drink in almost 45 years. It would still be the first one. So God, as we understand God, the who is the source, the power of our spiritual awakening. In this study, this 12-step study, we've been seeing how who, God, guides and directs us in step-by-step growth of our own personal, as step 11 says, conscious contact, our own personal relationship with who, and how the individual, as Robin read to us in Appendix 2, the indispensable willingness, honesty, and open-minded. There's your acronym, who. Willing, honest, open-minded is necessary in each step. So if you were to turn to page 59, which if you were following along, you're already at page 57, so not that hard to get to page 59. If you weren't following along, get to page 59, and at the bottom of the page, you'll see the number 11. That would be the 11th step. The first 11 steps are summarized in the big book on page 59. Step 12 is summarized at the top page 60. It's wonderful to have this list. It's wonderful to have this summary. I was sitting in my home group this morning. I always try to chair my home group the month of March. It's my anniversary month, so I'm sitting at the head of the table, and guess what's hanging on the wall behind me? The 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's good to have the summary. Problem is, I tried to work the steps off the summary. I didn't bother to go any further and read the instructions. I figured I was pretty well self-taught. I'm a pretty creative guy. I've got a pretty high IQ, which is not necessarily an asset. That's like saying you got a 725 horsepower Dodge Challenger. 725 horsepower may not be an asset. It may just be dangerous. That's kind of like my IQ. It may not be an asset. We'll move on. Anyway, look at what page 59 says on step 11. It says sought. Can we just pause here for 10 seconds and remember? It says seek. It doesn't say find. I was looking to find. I wanted to lock it in. Every day we wake up, step 11 is still the same. No matter how many days, weeks, months, years we do this deal, we wake up every day and step 11 still says seek. Here's the good news for me there today. I don't have to worry about figuring it all out. I don't have to worry about knowing it all. In fact, I discover the great freedom in not knowing it all. Page 164, wonderful promise. We realize we know only a little. You know what we know? Just because we know a little doesn't mean we don't know anything. The fact that we know a little means we don't know everything. But we know enough to know that just knowing a little is enough. And the most important pieces of enough, and you can either spell it E-N-O-U-G-H or E-N-U-F, I don't care. Found out some of you do that. I just found out some of you really do. E-N-U-F, that's all right. Seeking is part of our primary purpose. Page 77 in our 8th and 9th step, time or two ago. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Seeking is part of becoming spiritually fit, not becoming a know-it-all. Sought to improve our conscious contact with God. To improve, once again, not get it perfect, not lock it in forever. Yes, I skipped prayer and meditation because for too many years I made the how. Sue, it really comes to light in step 11, the difference between the who and the how. Yes, they come together, but look at the difference. I made prayer and meditation the who, not the how. And I got to get prayer right. And I got to meditate right. And I sit in a meditation meeting with some of you and I listen to how you meditate. And I look at myself and say, oh, I'm not praying right. I'm not meditating right. It doesn't sound as good to me as what she's doing. And so I go home and beat myself up again over step 11 to the point. I'm sure none of you have ever done this, but to the point I quit doing step 11. I quit trying. It's too hard because I can't pray and meditate perfectly. The danger in any step of making the how the who, but especially in step 11, we completely miss the purpose of the step. The purpose is not to become a perfect prayer. The purpose is not to become a world-class meditator. The purpose is to seek to improve my conscious contact with who, not get a perfect how. Are you with me so far? Now, do I want to improve prayer and meditation? Of course I do. But the big book's been telling me since the end of the doctor's opinion, way back in the front of the book, where the doctor's opinion ends with, though they may have come to scoff, may you remain to pray. And the big book is full of this prayer alone. Ask God. Ask God. Ask God for this. Ask God for that. Ask God to save me from being angry. Ask God to take away my fear. Ask God to show others more consideration. Ask God what my plan for a relationship should be. Ask God to help me be willing. Ask God to help me take responsibility for the wrong things I've done. Ask God to help me be accountable to make direct defense of the people I've hurt. I get to step 11 and don't think I know how to pray. What book have I been reading? Oh, that was it. I wasn't reading the book. I was working the step off page 59 because I'm a know-it-all. Oh, you mean all the words in the book matter? Maybe. Sought to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand God. Sought to improve my relationship with who? Because in the first 10 steps, I have come into some degree of relationship with a power greater than myself. It may be thin, it may be coming and going, it may not even be something I'm aware of half the time, but if you stop and think about it, compared to your first meeting, well, let's not even say your first meeting sober. Because I came back to Alcoholics Anonymous after I quit drinking a couple of days from now. Haven't left. I've stayed. You know, once you stay, you can stop worrying about coming back, but just stay. My relationship with God today is monumentally better than it was 45 years ago. So step 11 on page 50. Yeah, we're still on page 59. We're just not making any headway at all, are we? sought through prayer and meditation to improve, not perfect. Spiritual improvement, not spiritual perfections, Chris. Improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, comma. It's a pause, it's not a stop. It's really meant to go, it's a long step. Inhale, praying only. Only is not a limitation, it's a focus. Only is it meant to be a limitation here, it's a focus. Praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out. So my prayer is, God, grant me the knowledge of your will for me and the power to carry that out. It's really an echo of step 3 and step 7. Step 3, I ask God to relieve me of the bondage of self. What do I do in step 11? Ask God's will to be there in place of myself. What do I do in step 7? Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. What am I saying in step 11? Praying only for knowledge of his will and the power to carry that out. Real similar to step 7. I want you to go to page 88 for a minute. This is in deference to Al. Last week, he suggested we start step 11 on page 88, so we are. You may not remember it, but I made a note. Words to that effect. So page 88 says, are you sitting down? Because this will break your heart if you've never read it before. So we let God discipline us. That's the word in the book, baby. We let God discipline us in this simple way we have just outlined. What simple way? It's called steps 1 through 11. He doesn't say this easy way, Kathy. He says this simple way. Not right. So we let God. We give God permission. We give the who the permission to help us with our willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness to grow in this relationship with the who by using the how of prayer and meditation. Ask God to help. Sit back and quietly listen for the help. Prayer, ask God for help. Meditation, sit back and listen for the help. It's one way to look at it. So we let God discipline us in this simple way we have just outlined. So here's the question in the Who series. Am I willing? Ask yourself this right now. We got a half an hour to go. Maybe 35 minutes if you're lucky, not 45. Am I willing? Am I honest? Am I open-minded enough to follow the simple way? Simple question. Make the difference in your life. Now we go back to page 85, Al. Who is, so at the bottom of page 85, we're wrapping up step 10. We're making a transition into step 11. And he says, much has already been said about, notice this, page 85. Much is already said about receiving. Notice it doesn't say getting. I came in here to get it, didn't you? I came in here to get sober. I came in here to get spiritual. I came in here to get people back on my side. I came in here to get God on my side. I came in here to get, gimme. What about Bob? Gimme. I want, I need. If you haven't watched What About Bob lately, it'd be good viewing for right now. Bless his heart. I sail. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. You think you're smart? I think I'm smart. You think you know a lot? I know a lot. I've been reading since I was 4, and I've been reading lots of stuff. My interests are very broad. Page 164. I realize I know only a little. He says, if we have, look at this. This is a big paragraph, which I skipped for years, by the way. If we have carefully followed directions, you go to meetings with people who say there's no directions in the big book, it's all suggestions. You go to meetings with people that say that. They may not know they're lying, but they're lying to you. There are directions in the big book. You're driving along the highway, you come to a sign, bridge out 2 miles ahead. And you keep sailing along at 82 miles an hour. So far, so good. You pass the sign a mile, bridge out 1 mile ahead. You think that's a suggestion? When you sail through that barricade out into the wild blue yonder and go, whoops, you have just learned the difference between a suggestion and a direction, baby. I suggest you learn the difference when you first see the 2 mile bridge out sign. Oh, that's not a suggestion, that's a direction. But as everything in Alcoholics Anonymous, the choice is yours. In any event, we have carefully followed directions. We have begun. Oh, Lord have mercy. We're going into step 11 and we're just beginning. I want to graduate. I thought I was step 11 of 12 steps. I should be about done. No, not in the spiritual growth process, which is never ending. We have begun to sense the flow. This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. Unbeknownst to me, unexplainable by me, that I have begun to experience, I've begun to sense the flow. Something is changing. It's the Spirit. The Spirit really is awakening. The Spirit really is waking up and connecting with the Spirit with a capital S. He says we have begun to sense. Doesn't mean you have to explain it, don't have to understand it. To some extent, we have become God conscious. And that can be annoying. I can't do that anymore. I know God's knows. Better to be uncomfortably God conscious than not God conscious at all. Bridge out 2 miles ahead. Slow down, baby. So, let's look at that paragraph. Receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from who? Am I willing? Going into step 11. Am I willing to seek knowledge of who God's will for me today? He says, sense the flow of the Spirit, become God conscious, have this sixth sense. Am I honest enough to admit the feeling? Am I honest enough to admit something is going on, something feels different? I had a friend stand up in a meeting. He got his 1-year coin down in Fort Myers one day. He says, nothing has changed and everything is different. Amen, brother. That he's sensing the flow. He doesn't have to understand it or explain it, but he's feeling it. It's real. The feeling, the difference of inspiration. And we must go further, and that means more action. Am I open-minded enough to go further? Am I not just going to rest on my laurels after step 9? Am I working page 84 and step 10 on a daily basis? Am I open-minded enough to go further, to seek more power from the who? All right, going to move along now. We're going to move right through step 11. Teresa, you're going to read in just a minute. You're going to read the top paragraph on page 86 when we retire. But while Teresa's getting unmuted, let me remind you of this in step 10. I'm willing, honest, and open-minded enough to continue to take personal inventory, to reduce the likelihood of me doing the next wrong thing. Step 10 primarily reduces the likelihood of me doing the next wrong thing. And along the way, I do a bunch of right stuff. In step 11, I'm willing, honest, and open-minded enough to seek. I'm a seeker. I'm here to seek. Here's the green seeker tie. I'm going to improve my knowledge of who, God's will for me, and seek the power to carry that out so that I can become better able to be and do, to be the right thing and do the right. What's it mean to be the right thing? Become the man God made me to be. To do the right thing. Look at our code, love and tolerance of others. Look at our purpose on page 77. Be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Teresa, have you got page 86 there?
Yes, I do.
When we retire at night, Teresa.
Hi, I'm Teresa, blessed alcoholic. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving towards all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken.
Thank you, dear.
You're welcome, Bill.
That's how the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous suggests we end our day. And it's a review of how well we did page 84 and 85. It's a review. It makes sense when you see that step 11 at night begins with a review of how well we did step 10 throughout the day. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. This isn't to beat up on yourself. This isn't to punish you. This isn't to make a list of everything you did wrong so you can flagellate yourself. I am willing each night to honestly review how well I worked step 10 that day. And I did a lot of right stuff yesterday. I'm open-minded enough to accept. Notice we seek God's forgiveness and ask. Here's that ask God prayer right here. Ask God what corrective action needs to be taken. And then we go to sleep. Right in your book at the end of that paragraph, when your book says inquire what corrective measures should be taken, right in the middle of page 86, it's okay to write in your book. It's not cheating. Write in your book, go to sleep. Let God worry about it the rest of the night. He's God. He can handle it. And it's amazing how often I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, or it comes to me during this workshop at noon the next day. Oh, I do need some corrective action. Thank you. That's how we end our day. Mike B. is going to read for us. You there, Mike?
Hello, Mike Alcoholic.
On awakening.
On awakening. Yes, sir. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives.
Wow.
Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives.
Holy cow, Mike, that's a heck of a way to start the day. Why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I do that for years? Notice when it says, it doesn't say halfway to work. It doesn't say during your 10 o'clock bagel break. It doesn't say mid-afternoon when your world is going to hell in a handbasket again. It says on awakening. Now, I'll cut you some slack. You don't have to lay in bed like you're strapped to the gurney. I can't get up yet. I haven't done my step 11 prayer. I'm awake. If I get up, I'm cheating. I take a little license with this. I get to the kitchen, punch, brew, coffee, just coffee. That's all I'm brewing anymore, just coffee. It's still good. Go to my chair, got my designated quiet place. Tina's got her designated quiet place. And I think about, let's face it, I'm already thinking about more than the 24 hours ahead. I'm already thinking about this afternoon, tomorrow, the trip out of town coming up. Will the kids get back safe from Mexico? Is the relative going to get over her cold, her flu? And I sit in my chair and say, oh, yeah, I'm only supposed to be thinking about the 24 hours ahead. Why? Because today is the only time I can intersect with God's help. I can think all I want about next Friday, but God will say, let me know when you come back. God may be in next Friday, but I'm not. If I want to intersect with that, ask God for this, ask God for help, ask God for power, ask God for knowledge, it can only be in today. Are you clear on that? One day at a time does not mean I'm going to work on April 17th, 2029. Well, I am working on one day at a time, 3 years in the future. No, Bob. It means today's one day. Kathy, what are you laughing? It's not that funny. We do it all the time. Thank you, Lars. Nice to have you back in the room. And notice what Mike told us. When we're thinking about our day, notice ask God. Notice ask God in that prayer. Divorce my thinking specifically. We say, oh, I don't know what God's will for me is. Yeah, we do. That's not because we don't know everything doesn't mean we don't know anything. I know God doesn't want me to drink today. I know God wants me to ask him to save me from being angry today. I know God wants me to ask him to take away my fear today. And you know what else on page 86? Divorce my thinking from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Did you see the word motive? We are so here's action, here's thinking about it, here's feeling about it. Way upstream from all that is the motive behind it. By the time we get to step 11, we're not just dealing with what we do or say or think or feel. We're now saying, God, help me be divorced from, avoiding self-seeking, self-pity motives. It takes some practice. Well, God, I don't know what my motives are. And God says, I know. That's both the trouble and the blessing of motives. You don't always know why you're doing what you're doing. You don't always know why you're feeling what you're feeling. And that's why anger and fear are such a dangerous fallback. Because we don't know. And without God's help, not knowing makes us afraid. And without God's help, I can't stand to be afraid somebody get angry. Because angry is a face mask for fear. And if I come at you angry, you don't know how afraid I am. And I learned to do that when I was 3. Not 3 years sober. 3 years old, which was a long, long time ago. When you really accept the fact that you're going to start your day in your quiet place, with or without your coffee, hot tea, Ovaltine, whatever you want to get, a glass of warm salt water, whatever turns you on, and say, God, Serious is what the book says. If you want the benefit, do the work. Help me not be self-pity motive today. Help me not have dishonest motive today. Help me not have self-seeking motives today. When we start doing that, specifically, God help me not be driven by self-seeking, self-pity, dishonest motives. You do that for a week or 10 days, you will be as amazed as I was. Something happens, something else, something more happens. Going back to that feeling you talked about on the bottom of page 85, we will sense the flow of more just by asking. Don't ask me to tell you how that works, because I don't know how it works. I know it does work. We've reached the point where you cannot connect the spiritual dots anymore. I understand doing a fifth step helps me get rid of guilt, regret, remorse. I understand following through with 6, 7, 8, and 9 gets rid of more guilt, regret, remorse, shame, and fear, and even starts to dial down to pride. I understand that pretty well psychologically. I do not understand at this day how, who makes a difference when I say, God, help me not have self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives today. But it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. Debbie G., are you ready?
I am, Bill.
Now, Debbie, we're going to continue to think about our day now that we got our motives in check. Bottom of page 86, top of page 87, please.
All right. Hi, everyone. Debbie Alcoholic. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here, we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it.
Really? Did you like the way she read gradually? I really liked that. Gradually. Yeah, it really is sometimes quickly, mostly slowly. Am I willing enough to ask God for inspiration? It's not foolish. No one's watching. And even if they are, they really don't care. They're thinking about their stuff. Ask God for inspiration. It's not cheating. God, I don't feel inspired. Give me some inspiration. Yo, dude. Ask God for an intuitive thought. How will you know you're having an intuitive thought? You won't. If it's intuitive, you won't know it till later, maybe much later. A decision. Notice he puts decision after preparation. Divorce me some selfish motives. Inspire me. Give me some intuition. And then a decision. I want the decision right now. He says, prepare yourself. Let me help you prepare yourself with me to make a not just data informed, make a spiritually informed. You want to make a spiritually informed decision? Ask God to help you with motive, intuition, inspiration. Am I honest enough to admit that I have begun to have inspiration. I look back today and realize how long I was starting to have inspiration. It was like getting bit by a mosquito. I couldn't slap myself fast enough. I didn't know what it was. And because I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't explain it, and I couldn't define it, and I couldn't control it, I pretended it weren't true. Am I honest enough to realize I'm getting inspiration and don't even know it? Or, oh, God, I really want the blue car. And God says, I want you to have a green car. I don't want the green car. God says, I don't have to explain my reasons. I don't want you to have the blue car. But I want the blue car. And it may be more serious than the color of your automobile. Kathy, dear sister Kathy, we usually conclude, Kathy, page 87.
Well, yes, sir. Thank you very much. We usually conclude the period of meditation. Not always, usually. All right, serious. Mute, Bill, please. Mute. We usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And people quoted the big book, and I believed them from you. You can never pray for yourself. Oh, don't pray for yourself. The big book says never pray for yourself. Well, they're only quoting half that paragraph. It says, don't just pray for yourself, but it's okay to pray for yourself if others will be helped. Let me ask you this question. God, help me not take a drink today. That's my first prayer this morning. It's been my first prayer for a long time. God, help me not take a drink today. Number one, am I praying for myself? Yes, I am. Will others be helped? Tina just said yes before I could. Lars is nodding a little too vigorously. I'm a little nervous about that. How about this one? Page 67. In the middle of the 4-step resentment inventory, God saved me from being angry. That's the prayer. God saved me from being angry. Is that praying for myself? Will others be helped? You damn betcha. So let's not quote the big book unless we're going to take the context along with it. Am I willing enough to trust God with what my next step is today? All day long? Am I honest enough to ask God for freedom from self-will? You know, when we started praying the prayer on page 87, in step 3 on page 63, 24 pages and 6 steps, 7 steps, 8 steps ago, relieve me of the bondage of self. Never pray for our own selfish ends. Am I honest enough to continue to ask God for freedom from self-will? By the way, self-will does not like this prayer. There will be a part of you that resists this. I resisted this for years. Am I open-minded enough to ask for myself if others will be helped? Willing, honest, open-minded is at work here on page 86 and 87. Hermione, how are you today? If circumstances warrant, Hermione, page 87.
Say, I'm an alcoholic. If circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination, which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer.
Oh, I love to hear your voice. My mother was very, very English, very British. I love all of your voices. Don't get upset. Thank you, Hermione.
Thank you, Bill.
If circumstances warrant, that's individual application. He says over and over in the book, in different ways, but he says it many, many times. Make use of what religious people, make use of what religion has to offer. It's too easy to blame my behavior, my choices, my life on what I did or didn't understand about God and the church when I was 9 years old. And I'm not saying the church has always done it right, whatever church. I'm not saying there haven't been unhealthy people in the vicarage. But we rise above the harm. We rise above the misunderstanding. We rise above the misapplication of other people. God has already forgiven us. The book says so. Back in the 4-step sexual conduct inventory talks about God's forgiveness. We talked about God's forgiveness when Teresa started us off with step 11 in the evening. When we retire at night. It doesn't do my spiritual recovery any good to blame anybody for what happened. Not saying we forget, not saying there wasn't a lot of bad action, but it's time for us to give it to God, forgive, and move on. Find healthy spiritual and or religious advice. Whether you join a church or not, it's up to you. Big Book does not require church attendance, but neither is the Big Book against church participation or church attendance. We maintain a position of neutrality. It says so in our preamble, says so in our traditions. Am I willing, honest, and open-minded enough to pray and meditate with others and to learn from other spiritual and religious people? It's really a simple yes or no question. Do I want to grow or not? Or do I want to continue to be a victim? Clancy used to say all the time, the great payoff of being a victim, I don't have to take responsibility. If step 11 is about anything, it's taking responsibility for my spiritual life. Seeking to improve my relationship, my conscious contact with the God of my understanding, using prayer and meditation as a means to that end, no matter how inadequate, how clumsy, how ineffective or embarrassing I think my prayer and meditation is. That's why the verb in step 11 is seek. Now, Al, after all this preparation, we're still going to go through the day. Could you read from the bottom of page 87 over to the end of page 88, please, sir?
Yes, Mr. Billy.
Thank you, Al.
As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily For we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. All the way? It works.
It works. It really does.
Eureka. We
Al,
alcohol. You want more? You want a big finish?
Al, are we on discipline?
I'll say. You're asking, you're telling me.
Let's read the book, Al.
We alcoholics are undisciplined. So we let God discipline us. In the simple way we have just outlined. But this is not all.
Yeah, we'll get there next time.
All right.
Thank you, brother. Always a 2-act play with Al. He's one act, I'm the other.
Call and response.
Amen. The rabbi should hear this, Al. Anyway, am I willing enough to admit? Al said it with pretty good enthusiasm. There was a slight edge when he said, I'm no longer running the show. That was good, Al. Am I honest enough to say and pray many times each day, thy will be done? Thy will be done is a prayer. It's not a command. It's voluntarily giving up so I can receive. 4 words. We get 11 steps to page 88. We're down to 4 words. Hey, dude, thy will be done. That's a prayer. Offer and receive. Then people say, how simple is it? 4 words. Get enough of me out of the way, thy will be done is a lot. Am I open-minded enough to believe that it works? Shortest paragraph in the big book. It works. It really does, page 88. And as Al said, we alcoholics are undisciplined. Discipline in this sense means routine, does not mean punishment. We need a routine. We need a place to bring this 100 trains coming and going every hour alcoholic mind. We alcoholics are undisciplined. So we let who? We let willing, honest, open-minded. We let God discipline us. Give us a routine in the simple way we have just outlined. God, as I understand God, who is the source and power of my spiritual awakening. In step 11, I seek all day, every day, to grow my conscious contact, my on-purpose, caring relationship. Care comes out of step 3, care of God. My caring relationship with who? God. Willing, honest, and open-minded in my meditation and prayer. From on awakening, throughout the day, and when I retire at night. Scott, we're going to take about 5 minutes. If you have the handout, you have page 3. Page 3 is not meant to be memorized today. I offer page 3 as some observations about who, God, in step 11, as it applies to me today in my recovery. I hope you will use it in your own meditation, reflection. I'm just going to highlight a few of these. Number 1, I enlarge my spiritual life each day with step 11. Simply by asking that my will be guided by God's will. By step 10, I stop blocking much of myself from God. Step 11, I open more of myself to God's care, which is God's will, God's power, God's love, and God's way of life. I'm resting on my laurels, like it says on page 85. If I fail to seek to grow my relationship with God with step 11 each day, I seek to know God's will, trusting that it will be disclosed before I have to act. I experience grief. We've talked about this before. I wanted to bring it up again. Grief is when we lose something. We grieve the sense of loss. I experience grief when I give up drinking. How am I going to live without my best friend? How am I going to live without my solution? I grieve when I give up my illusion of control. I grieve when I ask God to save me from being angry, to remove my fear, to remove my objectionable things, to let go of my excuses for not making amends. I grieve when I have to cease fighting anything or anyone, page 84. I grieve when I first stop doing the next wrong thing. By step 11, my grief at my losses, quote unquote, I think they're losses. My grief at my losses are replaced with God's care in the form of strength, inspiration, and direction. I grow to trust who? God more. I'm free of worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. I seek forgiveness and inspiration. I am in much less danger, as the book says, of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. I am much more able to do the next right thing. I can know God's will for me. I still need God's power to enable me to carry out God's will. Knowing it is not enough. I need God's help. God's will for me is often at odds with my desires for me. I want a blue car. God's power is frequently needed for my restraint to not do the next wrong thing. My daily meditation and prayer in step 11 help me see that the power that is behind me, the wind at my back, the wind beneath my wings, the power behind me is greater, Jim, than the challenges that are before me. When I pause, doesn't mean quit. Bottom of page 87. When I pause, when agitated or doubtful, and ask who, God, for the right thought or action, I'm acting on God's will with God's power right there in the pause. Instead of my former will, which just wants to plow ahead, when my response to restless, irritable, and discontented was taking a few drinks, see again the doctor's opinion, bottom of page XXV, I, and forward. I feel emotion. It's what emotion is, feelings. I pause to ask God to help me think before I act. I act only if necessary. Not every feeling requires an action. Anxieties arise out of adversity. God's will for me is to seek God's care, God's power, God's love, God's way of life, to deal with adversity and gain relief from anxiety. A friend of mine says, my illness speaks to me in my own voice. Oh, gee, that sounds like a good idea. When I pause, I seek to listen for God's voice. Trusting God instead of doing becomes the most important thing. Remember how they used to say, don't just sit there, do something. AA says, don't just do something, sit there. I let God discipline me, that's the routine, to correct my course and keep me centered on God's caring will. And finally, in step 11, I'm willing to be honest about my choices. I'm open-minded enough to seek through daily meditation and prayer to let God help me make better choices. And next time, we're going to learn more in step 12 about choosing to try to help others and choosing to try to practice these principles. In fact, we're going to talk about being willing, honest, and open-minded enough to try. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. And before we open up for questions and answers, I'd like to thank everybody for spending time with us today. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And Bill, would you like to take us out with a prayer or a reading of your choice?
Yes, I will. Top of
Thank
page 88. Thy will be done. Amen.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, now everybody can unmute and thank our wonderful workshop leader, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. That was
Bill.
great.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank
Bill.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Bill.
you.
Thank you, Bill.
Amazing.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Bill.
Bill.
All right.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
Nice
sir. I think
Thank
it was
you, Bill.
unanimous. Everybody enjoyed it.